Thomas 48. Jesus said, "If two make peace with each other in a single house, they will say to the mountain, 'Move from here,' and it will move." In Thomas 48, there is a direct link to Thomas 47. Jesus struggled with the knowledge that the old belief system would sully his teachings, evident in Thomas 47. The desire of the Father, the source, to reunite with the soul that came from it, and be found in the Jewish faith through Kabbalah, through Islam in Sufism, and through Christianity in esoteric groups. Kabbalah sources the Torah as a code, which became a way to unlock secret teachings about the universe and the nature of God and man. These revelations came through a process of intense prayer or meditation, the resulting text being the Zohar. Sufism, universal in nature, is the mystical internalization of Islam and its essential philosophy concerning our spiritual link to God. The objective of Sufism is to focus one's heart and mind on God. In Christian mysticism, William Inge and Oswald Chambers were involved in seeking out the divine through metaphoric interpretations of biblical narratives. This is one of many examples of Christian groups that use the New Testament as a vehicle for a deeper relationship with God. The subgroups derived from the three Abrahamic religions demonstrate the struggle of those who have the light within them. They feel the pull of the source. This shows how inadequate the primary texts have been in providing a convincing holistic truth. Thomas 48 references the limiting nature of the patriarchal belief system that preceded Jesus. This system diminished our connection to the source. Consider how fundamentalist Christians position themselves when contemplating the difference between the God Jesus speaks of in the Synoptic Gospels as compared to the jealous and wrathful God of the Old Testament. They have argued that God, like a father, punishes his children for going astray because he loves them. This punishment ultimately brings his wayward children back to the right path. They also argue that the jealousy God feels for us is like the jealousy a husband feels for his wife, because she belongs to him. They would argue this kind of jealousy is justified. Jesus tells us that to be children of the Father, we must be like babies. Thomas 22. Naive to the world and naive to the way of the lion, which consumes vulnerable souls. Thomas 7. A God who is perfect does not have human imperfections. Imperfections are endemic in this realm, and people are tainted by these. The Father of all things is not wrathful or jealous. These are the ways of men, not of God. The Father is light, which flows through everything. It cannot be jealous of anything, since it exists everywhere at the same time. Thomas 77. The archaic patriarchal view of God places it outside of the self. This is not what Jesus wanted. For this reason, Thomas 52 highlights the disparity between the prophecies and who Yeshua really was. To argue that the Old Testament God is the same as the God Jesus speaks of is not healthy. We know that these texts were produced by a particular group of people for the purposes of unifying that community. Israel Finkelstein, professor of archaeology at Tel Aviv University, and Neil Silberman, director of a named Center for Public Archaeology and Heritage Presentation, produced a book, The Bible Unearthed, which compares archaeological facts with the stories in the Old Testament. In the book and a documentary television series, the archaeologists uncover evidence which shows that people fled the lands around Egypt after the ruling classes fell out of favor with the working classes. The deities of the elite class were rejected, the same deities of the soon-to-be dispossessed people. This led to the story of Exodus as an epic tale of deliverance, told many generations after the event. As the working-class Egyptians headed into the land of Canaan, avoiding the fortifications, they came across communities that helped them along the way. Some of these communities worshipped a god, which ended up sharing a phonetic relationship, similar name, with the Old Testament God, Yahweh. The trials and tribulations of this great culture of the Jewish nation became interwoven with myths and legends. One of these legends is of a god and his heroes leading the community to a land of plenty. This is the same land that was promised to the other descendants of Abraham, the people of Islam. Thomas 48 is given a pragmatic sense of importance when we consider what could be if all conflicts were set aside. How much more productive would it be if these factions of the Abrahamic religions focused on the development of new sciences and technologies? This would benefit the souls that enter this realm. But the lineages from Abraham continued to be consumed by the lion. Thomas 7. If they were to recognize each other as three facets of the one thing, then the Jewish, Christian, and Islamic communities would be able to move mountains. The Gospel of Thomas is the key. It seeks to free us from a literal interpretation, to see that all of these communities have desired to answer the call of God, the source. Humans may have to admit that a tabula rasa needs to be the approach. 77th Pearl, the perpetual tree is the new garment by which this species can travel forward, both physically and spiritually. Thomas 48 shows how this realm dimension attempts to reflect aspects of the place of the Spirit, with the outcome being less than ideal. The conflict between religious groups mirrors how humans grapple with the duality of soul and flesh. Moreover, the dogma created by the major religious groups is also comparable to the struggle humans go through in their physical form. Just as a human mind should, religious groups must focus on spiritual matters. However, all too often we see these groups become involved in matters of the flesh. These matters may encompass cultural differences, borders between states, and subverting the rights of minority groups. Humans may make peace with this physical existence, realizing the body is a vehicle for the soul and the universe is the body's mother. They come to understand the purpose of physical existence. In understanding this, people may see how the two making peace with each other in a single house can move mountains. A mountain may be an obstacle, but it can also lift us high above our surroundings, enabling us to see the place for the first time. If we see where humans are on this speck of dust humans call Earth, we might appreciate that we are one.